I'm sure everyone who's played Pokemon has at some point experienced this. You pick up a Pokemon you think looks really cool, and at first it works really well. But as you advance through the game and collect more and more badges, that Pokemon becomes worse and worse
as it fails to keep up with the stronger mons around you.
Until you finally have to deposit it in the PC. In this video, I'm going to get rid of that problem. I have made a version of Pokémon Fire Red in which all Pokemon are good. I'll try not to get too technical with this, but the reason that some Pokemon are great at first but fail to keep up over time is mainly a thing called base stats. Every Pokemon species has a certain set of base stats that determine its HP, attacks, defenses, and speed. While there are a few factors that determine a Pokemon's exact stats, this is the biggest one. One way to compare Pokemon and their strengths is to add all their base stats together, and then compare their base stat total. A great example is Beedrill. It evolves incredibly early, so that it's already at its final evolution before most other Pokemon evolve even once. Beedrill has a base stat total of 385 in this game. Amongst the Rattata, Geodude and Squirtle, that's really impressive. However, once the game progresses and the other Pokemon evolve, Beedrill's 385 falls behind very quickly. So I decided to even out the playing field by increasing the base stats of all these Pokemon that couldn't quite keep up, and I made them all about as good as the starters. In numbers, that means base Pokemon get at least 300 base stat total. Mid-evolutions get at least 400, and final evolutions, as well as Pokemon that don't evolve at all, get at least 500 base stat total. Well, that's enough with the numbers in theory. Let's see how this affects the game. I'll only be using Pokemon that have benefited from the changes, so after picking up a random starter, I replace it with the true starter of the run, Pidgey. Given that there's a fair amount of weaker Pokemon in this game, I have a good amount of encounters to choose from, even if I only use the ones that got big stat changes. I'll only mention Pokemon I actually end up using, but I'll leave a Google Doc in the description if you'd like to see all changes I made. I pick up Rattata, Spearow, as well as two of my main beneficiaries, Caterpie and Weedle, who promptly evolve into Butterfree and Beedrill. As we're about to face the first gym, there is one more thing I need to mention. Because so many Pokemon got such a boost, I was scared the game might become too easy. Gym leaders usually use good Pokemon, so they wouldn't really benefit from any of these changes. So I decided to change one more thing. All the gym leaders' ace Pokemon got a huge buff in stats, up to a total of 550. And in the upcoming gym, that's pretty scary. Brock has an Onix as his ace, a Pokemon that has fantastic defense but is often ridiculed for its low attack. Most of the time I try to stay faithful to the original strengths and weaknesses of Pokemon, but this is an exception. I decided to give Onix a huge chunk of attack and a good boost in speed instead, meaning that Onix is now a physical monster with impressive speed, and my team is not equipped to handle it. In my first attempt, Brock shows me what happens when he's serious. In my second attempt, apparently, he's not. Butterfree takes out Geodude without much issue, but Onix has swept the entire team before. But for some reason, for a couple of turns it refuses to use Rock Tomb on Beedrill, letting it poison it and also get a few speed drops in. Now Butterfree outspeeds, but it still gets one shot, so it all comes down to this. Can Confusion one hit from here? It goes for the attack and gets a critical hit. I don't know if that was important, but I'm not complaining. In Mount Moon, I catch Zubat and Paris before making my way to Cerulean City to take on the next gym. Misty Starmie has also been buffed, and access to recovery makes it a defensive monster, but Beedrill takes it out, winning me the second badge. Before the electric type gym, I add a Diglett to my team to make things easier. I also catch the most incredible Pokemon of this entire run, Magikarp. I can't ever evolve it because Gyarados didn't get improved, but those splashes are happening real strong. Lieutenant Surge's Raichu was always strong, but now it deals even more damage and takes out Diglett with ease. However, Raticate with Dig and a Guts-powered Quick Attack manages to break through and win the third badge. After that, I head to Celadon City for a nice gambling session and win myself one Edgy Boy, before taking on the next gym leader. Erika uses grass types, and if there's one typing I'm strong against, it's grass. With a team full of grass killers, even the fact that I forgot to train up my Pokemon cannot stop the freshly evolved Golbat from claiming victory. After raiding Team Rocket's hideout and beating Giovanni, I head to Lavender Town to stop Team Rocket from desecrating a graveyard. by desecrating said graveyard with animal cage fights. And finally get access to the area to the south. I get myself a Super Rod and fish up a Horsey, one of the very few water types in this run. Next up is stopping Team Rocket yet again, as they're raiding the building of Sylph Co. As much as I hate helping out the top percent, I beat up Giovanni before I head to the now open gym. I have one answer to Sabrina's scary psychic types. Beedrill. I have never used a bug type this late in the game, but after one agility, Beedrill can completely sweep everything. Down I bike to Fuchsia City, where I immediately face the next gym, and Koga, the poison type leader. This is Porygon's chance for a grand entrance. With its new and improved special attack and some psychic type moves, it kind of plows through Koga's team, with Butterfree's help. I know these mons look a little overpowered now, but to be honest, any starter Pokemon could have done the same. Fire Red is not a difficult game, if we're being honest. I added Tangela to my team and surfed towards Cinnabar Island, where Blaine's Fire-type gym awaits me. The biggest challenge this gym offers is having a Water type. Seadra fulfills that requirement. Okay, I have a confession to make. I know I said I made all Pokemon good, but that wasn't quite the truth. This guy kidnapped a child and dragged her to the forest. I could not in good conscience give him a power-up. In fact, I actually reduced all his stats to 1. Anyway, there's only one gym left, so I head to Viridian City to do something that has kind of become a hobby. Beat up Giovanni. This gym is similar to the last one, as Seadra serves and Giovanni suffers, and then it's over. Now that I have all 8 badges, there's only one thing remaining. The Pokemon League and its Elite Four. And here's the thing. Remember how I gave all gym aces 550 stats? Well, I didn't want the Elite Four to be weaker than gym leaders, so I gave all their aces base stat totals of 600. And as it turns out, that makes them absolutely terrifying. First up is Lorelei with her ice types. Porygon with its Shockwave can, with a little effort, take out Dewgong, Cloyster and Slowking. And then her ace Lapras comes in. Porygon deals good damage before the rest of the team comes in and can't really damage it very well. They all get taken out one by one, with Lapras giving me glimmers of hope, but then being healed. So I do it all again. But this time things go a little differently. Porygon actually can't take out Slowbro this time, so Raticate has to finish it off. Golbat comes in against Lapras for a Confusion Toxic combination. But all of that is just to weaken it. The real hit is Butterfree with Solar Beam. It charges up, and Lapras hits itself in confusion, allowing Solar Beam to finally get rid of it. However, there's still Jinx left. Butterfree gets put to sleep, attracted, and has to take an Ice Punch. And then wakes up, bypasses Attract, and goes for the kill. This entire battle rested on those tiny butterfly shoulders, but Butterfree delivered. Next up is Bruno. He's a fighting type user who often gets made fun of for using 2 rock types in his Onixes. Here's the issue. The little throwback, if you will. Onix is basically supercharged, and he has 2. But more importantly, he has a 600 base stat total Machamp. While I can more or less easily get rid of one Onix and Hitmonchan, my strategy against Machamp involved Toxic, except Machamp has the ability Guts, meaning it will hit much stronger if it's poisoned. This first attempt is basically just me throwing mons at it and it obliterating them with one finger. I actually managed to take it out, but Tangela alone cannot take out Hitmonlee if it gets healed, so I'll have to try again. The second time I start with Tangela, who can take out Onix and poison Hitmonchan. Golbat finishes off Hitmonchan and I decide to stick to the Toxic strategy against Machamp. Butterfree and Porygon switch back and forth a bit to take some hits and weaken Machamp, before Butterfree hammers in a Psybeam, taking out Bruno's ace. It also takes out Hitmonlee, leaving only Onix, who is swiftly dealt with by Seadra. Butterfree once again is the MVP. Third is Agatha, who uses ghost types, and if you've been following the pattern, I guess you can tell what's about to happen. My main plan is to use Porygon, who is immune to ghosts and can hit all of Agatha's Pokemon super effectively. Unfortunately, Agatha has 2 of her 600 base stat Gengars, and the first one gets off a Toxic Poison, meaning Porygon can't really stay in for long. My other Pokemon struggle too much until the second Gengar puts them to sleep and kills them. Attempt number 2, in which Porygon doesn't get toxic, Tangela paralyzes and weakens Golbat, Porygon sets up Agility, and sweeps, well, no. Arbok takes it out before it can get too far. Raticate takes out Arbok, and guess who steps in to defeat Gengar? That's right, it's everyone's favorite bug, taking out Gengar, surviving on 7 HP, and then taking out the Haunter as well. The final Elite Four member is Lance, the strongest. But here's the thing, since his Dragonite already had 600 base stat total, he did not get a boost. And frankly, his team has too many weaknesses. Porygon takes out Gyarados, Seadra takes out Aerodactyl, both Dragonairs, and hits super effectively into Lance's ace, but just barely misses out on the kill. Because Dragonite used Outrage, however, it can't do anything else on the next turn, so Raticate takes it out with Quick Attack. And now, only the champion is left, my rival, Kay. I've not talked about any rival fights so far, because they weren't particularly difficult. But this one is different. He starts out with Pidgeot, which gets taken out by Porygon. Alakazam gets revenge but is taken out by Raticate. Next is Rhydon, which loses to Seadra. Seadra hits a heavy Ice Beam into Venusaur, who gets greedy with a stat move. It is temporarily saved by its Citrus Berry, but even Synthesis cannot heal enough, and it goes down to another Ice Beam. Gyarados comes out next, and Seadra can't really handle it, so Butterfree comes in and takes a critical hit. Then Butterfree survives a super effective Flamethrower and gets another critical hit into Arcanine. Golbat just barely manages to take Arcanine out with a clutch confusion, winning my team the championship title. Let's put a nice little conclusion to all of this. It was a lot of fun getting to play with Pokemon I never use otherwise. Did I really feel the difference? I think so. Butterfree proved its worth more than anything else, and relatively minor changes to the Elite Four definitely paid off. Some Pokemon, however, were still fairly bad, because of their movesets. That is something to keep in mind for the future.